Huh. Okay. Do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am. Where good enough actually came from.
Okay. Actually, that's not what you should be saying. You should be saying this one. All right. Uh, okay. Do you see the PowerPoint?
No,
Yes.
ma'am. Where good enough actually came from.
Okay. In this one. All
Oh,
right.
okay. You were replaying that.
Okay. Do you see the PowerPoint? That's YouTube. YouTube
Okay.
is the one that was feeding back on that. Okay. All right. I guess the PowerPoint is gone now. Again, hold on. All right. That should be what you're looking at now. I'm gonna hide this. Caroline, welcome. We're not waiting today. People will just join us as they come.
Thank you.
Yeah, people will just join. I said 8 o'clock. That's 12 o'clock my time. That's when we start. So that goes. Caroline, where did you hear us from? Where did you hear about this? I think you're muted or you can't hear me.
Apologies, was on mute.
Yeah, you were muted. I was saying, where did you hear about this
From one
workshop?
Mr. Stephen Madenge.
Oh, you're from Kenya.
Yes, yes, sure.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
What time is it over there?
It's 10 p.m.
Oh my goodness, you're one of the night owls then.
Yes.
Okay, so like I said, we're going to start because of people like you. Everybody else can join us later. Um, Here we go. All right, welcome everyone. I am so glad that we are able to participate in this workshop today. I'm honestly truly excited about this workshop because, look, I need to spotlight myself. Excuse me, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to spotlight myself.
Ma, you can take the time to also make me co-host. And I think Miss Beams is here
Oh,
too.
thank you. So let me make you co-host. I do that. Okay. All right. So, like I said, we're starting right on time. Woo woo. I don't see spotlight. Okay, here we go. So, spotlighting myself. Welcome, everybody. I am so excited about this workshop because it literally changed my perceptions of things. And even after I am on the latter end of parenting. I'm not parenting adults, we're now, there's a different type of parenting from when you're parenting kids, right? And so this has helped me go back and give myself some grace. So for those of you you still have children that you're actively parenting, I am sure this will also help you. And uh, so welcome to the space. Thank you for you're going to this is a gift you're giving yourself really this evening that you're spending this evening with me. It's afternoon, my time is just 12 noon, okay? But here are two quick things. The chat is open at all times. So make sure that if something lands for you, or even if you disagree or agree, put it in the chat. You just have to drop it in there so that we're constantly communicating with each other. I'll be checking it, and my co-host will also be checking check in the chat. If um if you have a question, you can also put it in there too. This is a very informal platform in terms of the fact that we can talk to each other, and it's not a lecture per se, so I don't want you to treat it as such, right? I want you to walk away with a few things today, not some rules, not some, oh, this is what you have to do to be the perfect parent. You're going to walk away with with a few things. You're going to know that in your bones what your child actually needs from you, all right, that is backed by, empirical research. You're going to let go of the standards that you are holding yourself to, but it's that was never really, you could never meet up to it in the first place, okay? So that's the whole workshop. Basically, that is it. There is a concept I'm introducing to some of you. Some of you, maybe this you're hearing it for the first time. Maybe some of you you've heard it, but you're not really quite sure what that really means, right? You're going to learn that, and also we're going to be letting go of some things. So let's get into it. For those of you who are still, you who came early, who are actually, you came on time and you're here with me, in the chat box, I want you to describe, you know, what parenting looks like on the worst day. Like a worst day, not a very good day. What does parenting look like? Put it in the chat box. What does it look like? Just one word. You don't have to tell stories. Just one word. What does parenting look like? Put it in the chat box. The other thing I want to put in the chat box is, tell us where you're from. Where you're watching from, where we're streaming this thing. To you from. So put that in the chat box. Let's see. So the chat box, I'll wait a few minutes for you to do that. In the chat box, write, my name is this, I'm from Pakistan, and what is a bad parenting day? One word to describe a bad parenting day. Somebody, you can say frustrating, you can say exhausted, whatever. Just put it one word or a phrase. That's it. We'll wait for that. Do I see do I see people writing? Let's see. Okay. Let's see. Good enough. Caroline from Kenya, thank you. I see you. What is a word that you can used? Oh, I see that. Used. Ooh. Okay, that's powerful. Let's see what else. Anyone else going to show us what introduce yourself, where you're from, and tell us one word that describes a very bad day, parenting day, a very bad parenting day. Put it in the
Okay.
chat box. Don't leave Caroline alone by herself here. Ah, angry. I see. Thank you, Winnie. All right. Who else? Let's see. Keep it coming. Introduce yourself and tell us what a not so good parenting day looks like, right? Because we all want to see that we are not alone in this. And some of you are still trying to figure out how to use your chat. So make sure you join us, please. All right. Uh, frustrated. I see that. I see that. I see that. Frustrated. Okay. All right. So let me go back to sharing my PowerPoint. Go back to, all right. Share my PowerPoint. So keep it coming, keep it coming. Introduce yourself, where you're from, and also tell us one word that describes a not so good parenting that you just feel like, tired, exhausted, angry, whatever it is that you're feeling. That is, there is nobody that's feeling something that other parents haven't felt. So there's no need to be embarrassed about this. A lot of these feelings are common, and we should take them seriously, because sometimes we feel like we're not good enough, or things are not going the way that they should go. But do you know that the research shows something completely different? A lot of the times you're running around like a chicken with a head cut off, and you are trying to figure out, how can I be this parent? How can I be this parent? And there are two groups of people, like I said earlier. They're the parents who have actually done the active parenting, and now that they're on the other end of it, which is parenting adult children. And then there are people, those of you who are still actively, parenting the younger generation. It's sometimes those of us who are probably already grandparents, or my youngest is 23. She's 23. She's going to be 24 in November. My oldest is 35. So I'm not actively raising kids. I'm on the other end of adulting, and a relationship with adult children. However, sometimes you still, even if when you're on that other end, you look back and you're like, okay, did I do everything I was supposed to do? How could I have done better? Da 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 da. And this workshop will help you. It would really help solidify some things in you, and help you give yourself, let off the pressure. Okay, let off the pressure. So we all know this feeling. We all know where it comes from. There's cultural reasons, there's all kinds of reasons why we all hold this standard. Because I don't think we choose it. I think we absorb it. I think we absorb it. There's a sociologist called Sharon Hayes, back in the 90s. And she wanted to understand why parenting and mothering specifically, felt sometimes so difficult, right? Or feels like an all-consuming job. So she did uh, uh, a research, pretty thorough research, where she looked at parenting manuals from all the decades, and then she began to interview parents, and especially mothers from different backgrounds. And she found something interesting, that there was the same pattern that showed up anywhere. It didn't matter if you're black, white, brown, polka dotted, rich, poor. It didn't matter, across race, across incomes, across travels. Pretty much every group she looked at gave the same pattern, and she called it the intensive parenting. And if you're like me, that's what you also absorbed. What does intensive parenting look like? All right, this is usually the practice of intense parenting. It is the belief that a good parent is completely child-centered. That's the belief, that you are completely child-centered, meaning that your needs will come last. All right. And it is also expert guided. Even in churches and places of faith, they will recommend books to you. This is a person you should listen to when you're raising your child, da 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 da. Meaning that there's always uh, um, a reference, a book, or an account, a pediatrician, a faith author, a big person that you should be listening to, you should be consulting, instead of trusting yourself in this parenting. Intensive parenting is also intensive, emotionally absorbing, very, very, very emotionally absorbing, meaning that your feelings are supposed to be wrapped around your child's feelings at all times. Very emotionally absorbing. So if the child is not doing well, what haven't I done? If the child is this, what should I have done better? It's very labor intensive. All right, very labor intensive. That means that it is expensive in money, in time. I remember when my kids were growing up, all these extracurricular activities, between my husband and I, you take this one there, you take that one over there. Every Saturday, there's always something. Every day there's this, right? There's monies that goes out of your pocket for all of these things because we have inherited this, we absorb this whole mentality of making sure our kids, do better than us and making sure that they get all of the privileges that they can afford. Well, let me tell you, there was one time I finally said, enough, 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 enough. We can't keep running around like this. So all of you, we sat all of them down. We said, choose one thing, choose one extracurricular activity you can focus on, right? And that was the beginning of me choosing to say that I cannot die in this parenting stuff, right? So if that sounds familiar to you, let me hear it in the chat, right? It or this idea that I don't know if you all heard of James Dobson's book, the Strong-Willed Child. Oh my God, I have a strong-willed child, what I thought called a strong-willed child growing up, and that book was what was provided to us, what was recommended in the faith circle. And honestly, I tell people now to toss that book because that is not even true. All right. There's nothing like tough love. There's nothing like that because every child needs the love that they can get. Well, if there was one thing I would love to go back and change would be that. And so what we're going to talk about today is what matters most. What did your culture tell you about parenting? What did you absorb from your own parents, or you decided you were going to do the opposite of what your parents did, right? There was one study. I'm going to give you just a few studies today before we start, talking about practicality, but I just want to ground this in studies for you. There was one study that was published in the Journal of Child and Family Studies, right? And it surveyed hundreds of mothers of young kids. The mothers who believed, and this is true, this study has been replicated over and over. The mothers who believed that they were the one essential, irreplaceable parent, especially if you have a divorce or if you have single parenting or even in a married couple, if there's the mother or the father who believes that they are the one essential, irreplaceable parent, the one who felt like the whole thing will fall apart without them specifically. Did you know that their life satisfaction rate is lower than the other people, than other parents? And the mothers who believed that parenting was supposed to be constantly challenging, uh, you know, they were the most depressed and stressed of the group. So the mothers who believed that they were this if I fail, everything falls apart, or if I'm not here, everything falls apart. Their life satisfaction rate is lower. And the ones who felt like, parenting is constantly challenging, like if it's not difficult, then you're not doing it well. Like difficulty itself is the proof that you're doing something right. Those parents, they're the most depressed, higher rates of depression and stress. And another one studied mothers. Usually mothers were the usually ones who were surveyed, who responded. They surveyed mothers around uh, feeling pressure to be the perfect mother. And those who felt pressure to be the perfect mother had lower confidence and they had higher stress because they was most of the time also second guessing themselves. And this is the key part that I want us to understand that the mothers who actually believed the perfect mother ideal, okay, they were impacted by the lower levels of confidence and higher stress. The second part of the study was that the people who consciously rejected that idea, but because they lived in a system that believed in that idea, they were also impacted. So it's not just what I believe sometimes, it's also who I'm surrounding myself with. So let me say that this aloud so that we can all hear it. The parenting standard that promises the best outcomes for your child is usually the same data that shows that it's wearing the parents down. And a worn down parent is not a resource. An exhausted parent is not a resource. A depleted parent, a resentful parent, an angry parent is not helping anybody and is not even helping the kids. So I'm not saying that to make to make us feel bad, no, or to even put pressure on us. I'm saying this because this is the pressure that it's culturally motivated. It's a cultural invention. There is nothing like the perfect parent. This intensive parenting, it fails, okay, especially on the part of the parent. So instead of a personal moral failing, all right, you can start to kind of think about this differently. That is my goal today. Start thinking about this differently. That's where the phrase good enough comes from. All right. So some people have heard that phrase. Some people, you're hearing it for the first time. Some people really don't even understand what it means. Good enough. Let's talk about where it actually started because it's not a shrug. It's not, oh, good enough. That's not what it is. It's an actual clinical idea that has thorough evidence around it, if this is making sense. So, how many of you are British here? This is your turn to be yay, because it was a British pediatrician and psychoanalyst. What's his name? Winnicott, Don Winnicott, who coined this phrase after spending years watching thousands of mothers and babies together. Thousands, not hundreds, thousands. And out of that came in the early 50s, he coined a phrase that a lot of people have heard, but some of you don't know where it came from. The actual phrase was actually called good enough mother. That was the original phrase. It was called good enough mother. All right. Now, the version as it was, all through the years now we have good enough parenting, good enough friend, good enough therapist, good enough this. And so Winnicott said a mother starts out almost completely tuned into the baby. You remember when you just brought the baby home, you responded to the cries of the baby. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not changing my slide. Sorry. All right. I've said all of this. Okay, I think this is where we are. All right. So said, and Esther, if you're there, you can help me with the slides, okay? So I don't have to think about it. So this whole idea that when a mother starts out, you're completely tuned into the baby. Yeah, every cry gets a response. And this is fathers, you're also part of this. Every need gets met. This is for the baby. You completely, you know, 120% tuned into into the needs of this baby. You want to meet the needs of the baby quickly at that, and that makes sense. This child is a newborn. They can't do anything for themselves. So that makes biological sense, it makes physiological sense, it makes psychological sense, it makes common sense. All right. But here's the part people skip. As the baby grows and starts to develop, they develop the ability to handle a little bit of frustration. The good mother, this is what the good mother on purpose starts to respond a little less perfectly. All right. A little less perfectly. Not because she's tired, well, she might be tired, but because she's actually doing the right thing for that child, because the child needs to learn, autonomy. The child needs to learn how to do things. And so Winnicott's argument was that this gradual, tolerable failing short, not constantly responsive to that child, actually teaches the child that the world outside their control can still be trusted, that they don't have to be in control. This person doesn't have to be with them every time for everything to be okay. A parent who never allows the child to fail even in small ways. You're constantly trying to fix the child. You're constantly trying to make things happen. You actually rob that child of the chance to build autonomy, the child to build trust, self-confidence, because you're constantly on that child. So he now proposed that there's no such thing as a baby without a mother, first of all. But what he was saying was that the two of you, there has to be a stage where the two of you are really two separate people. So there will be the I and the we. There is this idea in psychology called differentiation. There's the I and the we. You're two separate people, and you have to see yourselves as two separate people. There's the one person who is the individual, and there's the collective. If the collective absorbs the I, there's going to be problem. If the I doesn't care about the we, there's also going to be problems. So you're part of one system, but you are two people, and you can regulate each other. Is that making sense? Let me know. Let me know. Is this making sense? Yes, yes. Or are we, I mean, are you with me? Are you guys with me? Nobody's
Yes,
with me.
yes, we are in.
Only one person is with me. Put it in the chat if you're with me. Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So, imperfection is not a bug in that system. Imperfection is a mechanism that allows the child to grow up and leave the system. Do you understand? So sit with that for a second. Imperfection is part of the family system. Imperfection is part of the parenting system. The thing that you've been beating yourself up for, okay? The moment you're not perfectly tuned in, these are not cracks in the foundation. All right. Winnicott says that model itself, that's the foundation. The imperfection is the foundation. Huh? The imperfection is the foundation. I'm a Christian, so I know there are some Muslims here, so but look, there's the scripture about in Jeremiah where it's called the potter's wheel, and he is forming this clay into something beautiful. God is supposed to be that potter. So he is creating this beautiful thing, and then while he's creating it, he found that there was imperfection in it, something messed up. That is the same model. If God, who is supposed to be omniscient, all knowing, all this, could still be creating, and forming, and imperfection comes into it. So it supports this research and these studies that Winnicott is saying that the model of parenting itself is imperfection. All right. It's imperfection. So years later, you find people who have built on that. They've taken what he said and they've written books around it. The first one was called A Good Enough Parent. A Good Enough Parent. And he broke things into different concepts that we're going to talk about. All right. So let's look at it. So let's look at what that looks like when we're looking at this good enough parent. Number one, a good enough parent doesn't chase perfection, okay? Doesn't expect perfection from their child either, because it cuts both ways. You're not perfect and your child isn't perfect, all right? Because a lot of us are quietly, either we are known perfectionists and we're expecting perfection from our children, or you have not treated your own traumas and you're projecting your traumas on your kid. All right. Oh my God, God help me when I was raising these kids. If you've heard my story, I have a history of sexual assault when I was growing up. So when I became a parent, and that happened with an uncle in my house, when I was growing up. And so when I became a parent, oh my God, I was so hyper vigilant. Wear this, pull this up, do this, don't show, don't this. No, but I didn't, I was like eyes all around. And one time, one of them told me, Mom, why don't you just put us in hijabs? Like, just put us so nobody sees us. I had no idea back then that I was projecting my own traumas on them. You understand? It looks like I was being this, I had a standard that was so high for them until later on. Those are the kind of things that we do as parents. So we have to make sure that we're healing ourselves so that we're not projecting onto our kids, this perfectionism. Where did that come from? You need to get a first class. You need to get this. You need to be at this. You need to be at that. Why? Why? I'm not saying that we shouldn't have standards, but look, there might be children, some of your children might be self-motivated and they might gravitate towards, too much high academics achievement, but others could be more creative. They could want to go in another way. They might not want to go the way that you are wanting them to go. So think about that. It goes both ways. A good enough parent doesn't chase perfection and they don't expect it of their children. Number two, a good enough parent tries to actually understand that what the child is going through, what is happening with the child, instead of assuming the worst. All right. So what does that look like? Let's say you have a 14-year-old or 12-year-old who did something. All right. Maybe they colored on your wall, and you're like, oh my God, are you trying to mess up? Are you trying to destroy the house? What is your problem? You know, um, you can give examples, you can give your own examples, or well, maybe somebody who takes down your electronics, a child who takes up your electronics and begins to unscrew it, and they are and you coming and you're so upset. Oh my God, don't you? And what's wrong with you? Don't you know that everybody watches that TV or whatever it is? Maybe that child is curious about electronics. Maybe that child is going to be the next whatever, whatever. But you got upset because of what is happening now. So the good enough parent tries to understand what is behind the child's presentations, if that's making sense. What is going on with this child? So let me just stop here and say this. I don't believe, when parents say a child is acting out, there's nothing like a child acting out, because a child who is acting out has a reason to be acting out. There's something there. There's a reason to be acting out. And it looks like okay, I'm back. A child who is acting out, or a child who is sick, people will say, oh, you're just seeking attention, you're just seeking attention. Please stop saying that to your children. There's nothing like that. If they are seeking attention, or they are acting out, you should be asking, what is going on? What is happening? What is happening? And how can I help? That's what's happening. The child that I was talking about, my strong-willed child, for example, reading that book that I read when I was a younger parent, it talked about tough love, don't let them do this, did that. Later on, I found out that all she just needed was attention. All she needed, because she was going through her own stuff. Do you understand? So just making sure that we are digging deeper is important. And this is difficult when you are as a parent are feeling overwhelmed. A lot of the times when you're feeling overwhelmed is also because we've mastered this perfectionism in parenting. Number three, a good enough parent. I don't know what's going on with my Zoom portrait. Can you guys hear me? I'll keep talking. Can you guys hear me? Because it looks like I'm frozen somewhere. Can you hear me?
Very
Yes,
well.
we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Okay, looks like I'm back again. So let's say let's move on. Let's go to number three. Have I done number three? Okay. Yeah. So number three, a good enough parent cares more about what the child actually feels right now than any imagined future. Okay. What is going on right now with the child? That's a big one for a lot of us, because you want your child to be successful, especially minorities, especially, people of color. You want your child to do better. You want your child to be, you want your child to be named. You want your child to be all of these things. But the most important thing is right now. The most important thing is right now. This child right now, how do they see you? Maya Angelou one time was talking to Oprah back in the day. Maya Angelou of blessed memory. She said that she has such a critical eye. She had such a critical eye with her daughter, because she didn't think she was being critical. She thought she was trying to prevent a whole bunch of stuff from happening to her, that she wanted her to be the best. She didn't want people to make fun of her like they made fun of Maya. She wanted her to stand up and be seen in society, etc., etc. So she didn't know that every time she saw this girl would come in, she would say, oh, fix that, do this, that. She will have this, she will look at her in some kind of way. Oh, always critical. And then one time she just noticed our daughter was coming in, and she noticed how her daughter's face fell as soon as she saw her. And when she asked the daughter, what's going on? Why do you look this way? She said, Mom, you're always criticizing me. It's always criticizing. And she said that hit home, because that is the exact opposite of how she wanted the daughter to feel. So from that day, she made up her mind that this world itself as so many people who are going to try to pull you down. So in that home, our eyes should always be welcoming to the child. So instead of thinking of how am I going to prevent her from getting hurt tomorrow, to right now, I'm going to smile. Right now, I'm going to see her. Right now, I'm going to be the one that says, "You are everything and a bag of chips." So I also found that I did that with my kids earlier on. Oh, fix this, do that, do that. I had to relax myself because I know that what I want them to take away is not a mom who is constantly correcting them, but a mom who takes them as they are, who loves them as they are, who sees them as they are. And that is important right now, not the invisible timeline. Because you might be thinking, well, we have to prepare them for the future. But guess what, though? The future is going to be okay if right now is okay. The future is going to be fine. Number four, a good enough parent helps with what the child actually needs, not more than that. And this is going to be tough for a lot of you. It's you're going to help with what the child actually needs, not more than that. I know parents of adults right now, parents of adults right now, you're still trying to parent. You're still trying to mold that child. You're still frustrated about that child. You're still making sure, oh my God, how are they? And it's normal, but we have to emancipate ourselves from that. We have to emancipate ourselves from that. I remember one time my 18-year-old son, he had just he got the car for his 18th birthday. And we said he should not take the car to college, to university, because we did not want him to drive because his school was in such a windy road, and it's very dangerous. So we thought, okay, you're not matured enough to have that car on campus. So leave the car at home and go off to college. So I flew out to San Jose Airport, and he was going to drive me. He was in UC Santa Cruz, and he said, "Oh, mom, I'll pick you up." It didn't even make sense to me when he said, "I'll pick you up." I thought maybe one of his friends, or I didn't even know. I didn't know what to expect because I know this guy doesn't have a car. And so he picked me up. Then he said we were walking to the parking lot, and I said, "Hey, who is driving?" He said, "Oh, mom, they have zip cars on campus that you can you have zip cars on campus that you can rent." So I've rented one to pick you up. And this guy was, when we got to those winding roads, you should have seen the way he was just zipping and zipping and zipping. And I was just like, oh, my heart was in my mouth. Or how did they say that phrase? Heart in your mouth. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, but you know what happened that day for me? I decided I'm not going to worry about this anymore. God, take care of him. That I'm not going to do that. That day I stopped stressing because I don't know what is happening hundreds of miles away. Nobody knows. So you stop worrying about those kind of things, right? Um, you don't do more than the child needs. Sometimes what the child needs is for you to let it be. All right? Doing everything for your child is not love. Trying to manage everything is not love. Trying to be, on top of every single thing is not love. Sometimes it's you accidentally telling your child that you don't think that they can do it, that you don't think that they are enough, that you don't think that they're enough without you. Does that make sense? So that's important. Number five, I when we're looking at number five, I think that this one is uh really weighty, okay, for this conversation. Not that although the other ones are not, but this one particularly. A good enough parent is convinced actually convinced that their good enough parenting is good enough. Sit with that for a minute. Your confidence in good enough parenting keeps your child safe. It allows your child to explore. It allows your child to become. Some of us forget that we used to be kids. You know, think of what you did when you were younger, and your parents didn't know about it, especially those of us who went to boarding school. Uh, if you're constantly anxious about whether you know you're doing it right, what is going on, if you're constantly anxious about that, you're going to transmit anxiety to your child. What I want you to transfer to your child is a calm nervous system. All right. A lot of times, it's especially if you're a parent of, it doesn't even matter if you're a parent of adults or younger children. Sometimes we see those children as enmeshed with us. So you're thinking that however they turn out is a replica, it's a result of your own parenting. Well, that's a high bar. Okay, sometimes too high. There's so many. Have you ever seen a parent? Have you ever seen children where the parents did everything, did all they could, but they ended up in jail or something happened to them? It's you are just a part of the picture. There's so much more of it that's intertwined in this. It's the nature, it's the nurture, it's the society, it's the environment. It's so many things that are happening with the child. Okay. So which one of this is hardest for you? Which one of these five will be hard for you? You can drop the number in the chat. Which one of this will the hardest for you? Or looking back, which one? You can put in the chat box as we continue. All right. So um one thing that I have learned, all right, is looking back for me, because there was a part of me who was like, I could have done this better. I remember when I first started trauma work, when I first started learning about trauma, adverse childhood experiences, and I started, getting trained and stuff. It was like, psh, light bulb moment. I was just like, oh my God, why didn't, we went through a whole psychology PhD that didn't focus specifically on this trauma. How did that happen? How did that happen? Because this is the explanation for a whole bunch of stuff. And the first people I needed to talk to were my children. Because I looked back and I just saw how my traumas just impacted so much, you know? So I remember sitting with them. Some of you might have heard me share this. I remember sitting with them and saying, tell me how you experienced growing up. Tell me how you experienced it. And I'm listening. I'm listening. So I remember this, you know. So all four of them, actually, the three girls were the ones we started with because my son wasn't. And they started talking and talking and talking and talking, different pictures. And I was crying, you know, and I was like, really? Yeah, and I just experienced it. And they'll be like, and I was like, oh my God, I was such a horrible mother. And then they would say, no, 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 mommy, you were not. No, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. But I focused on the bad ones. you know I remember they couldn't do any sleepover. They could not read certain books. They could not, just all kinds of stuff, right? I was so focused on go to church, do this, and just spending time one on one sometimes was not present, just all of these things. And I was just like, oh my God, And so we all of us cried with this, and everybody go to therapy, go work it out. And as a family, we also began to work on different things. That was the beginning of healing. Now, fast forward, even though I knew that I I I did my best. I did what I could do. And that's one of the things I told them. I was like, look, I did what I knew to do, right? I knew I did what I knew to do. This is not something like, wasn't like he was being mean or anything. And I see that hand, just hold that hand for a minute. And and, but I was still sometimes I will still think, oh my God, why did I do that? Until I started, um, thinking about this good enough parenting. That delivered everything for me. You know, good enough means that you did the best you could. Good enough means that the imperfection is part of the foundation of parenting itself. You have to expect that there's going to be imperfection. Does that make sense? You have to expect that you're not perfect. You have to expect that your children are not perfect. And it is built upon this foundation itself. Um, Bola, your hand is up. Did you want to say something? Hello? Bola, unmute yourself. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. All right. So let's look at the science that changes everything. This is the science behind this that changes everything. So there was this in the 70s, there was this guy named Edward Tronick. I think you guys have, if you haven't watched the still face experiment, I want you to go on YouTube and watch it. Somebody put it in the chat box. It's called the still face experiment. Put it in the chat box, the still face experiment. Put it in the child box, and there's one for mothers and there's one for fathers. All right. So the still face experiment is absolutely beautiful. It will stick with you. So here's what happens. So a mother sits with her baby and they're playing normal things for a few minutes. They're just cooing and they're talking, they're smiling and doing all the stuff that you would do with a baby. And then on cue, the researcher told the mother, he says, go completely blank. Don't have anything on your face. Just go completely blank, right? No expression on your face, no response. Be flat. Just look like this, like this. Just be flat. No affect, nothing. We want a still face, and watch what the baby does. You know what happened to that baby? The baby begins to work for that, what he wanted from the mother begins to work. The baby begins to smile, trying to say, Mommy, come back, Mommy, come back, begins to work for it. The baby will start pointing at things. The baby was squirreling. The baby is reaching. The baby is trying to do everything to bring back her mom online. Bring your mom back. It's actually sad when you watch it. And the mom still was looking like this, very still face. It's called the still face experiment. And so the baby did everything she could to bring back, the mother. But the mother had been told, you cannot respond to this baby when it's doing it. Don't talk, don't smile, don't do anything. So what happened was that the connection broke. The connection broke between the baby and the mother. The baby began to cry. All right. There was no more connection. Now Tronick and his team now said, now go back and start smiling again and start talking again. And as soon as the mother started talking and smiling, guess what happened? The baby started talking and smiling. So what this tells us is, and it happened over and over and over, What this tells us is that when you're securely attached to your parents, there'll be times that you'll be out of sync. There'll be times that you might not do things right. All right. But those times, yeah, are part of the imperfection of this. That's the science behind it. And it shows that when you do repair it, things will come back into normal. I just shared when we repaired ours in my house as a family. So 70%, if you're looking for a percentage, you want to be in sync on average 70%. So that means 30% can be out of sync and things will still be okay when you come back. Does that make sense? What you don't want is for the disconnection or the rupture to be the 70%. All right. So think about that in your head, think about that in your mind again. In healthy, securely attached parent-child relationship, the two of you can be out of sync a whole bunch of the time. Okay. But you can always come back. You can always come back. You can always come back. That is important. So attunement isn't what builds a secure relationship. What builds it? Repair does. You have to repair. Some of us, even culturally, we don't know how to repair. There are parents who don't know how to apologize. The parents who think that repair means I have to go back and redo something. No. Repair means that I have to be open to coming back in sync with the child. Repair is not external. Repair is attunement. It's what is happening with the relationship. It's the nurture. It is the us going in the facing the same direction. It's the hugging. It's the saying, I'm here with you. It's sitting with them. That's how you repair. Repair is not verbally telling them what you don't like and what you like and all of that. That's, there's a time for that. The repair is an emotional thing, depending on the developmental stage of the child, you demonstrate that. But a repair is our human connection. That's it. It's talking to each other. It's hearing what that person has to say. It's not this whole, I am your parent, you have to listen to me. Look, especially those of you who are parenting adult children, if you take that stance, you're going to lose them. All right. Because remember, they're now their own adults, They are now their own, they have their own sense of what they want and things. So the way you deal with a child who is in their 20s, in their 30s is different from how you will deal with a 12-year-old or 14-year-old. It's a shift you have to make. In fact, sometimes now they're telling you what to do at some point. You understand? And so that shift is you're no longer actively parenting. You become a friend. Oh, there's another thing we should talk about before we finish this whole thing. You hear these things about you cannot be your child's friend. I don't understand that. I really don't. I understand what they mean. I understand the intent behind it, that you're more than a friend. But if you're not your child's friend, who are you? You're their enemy? Some people would say, I'm their parent, not their friend. You are both. You have to be friendly with your child. And you also have to be a parent with your child. So that's important. All right. I want you to keep this in mind when in the rest of your parenting life. Number one, you want to be attunement. You want to be attuned. That means you and your kid are in sync. All right. That's important. You want to be attuned. Number two, expect that there's going to be rupture. Something is going to happen. You're going to be distracted. You're going to miss a cue. You're going to miss something. Your child is going to melt down. and you're going to handle it badly. So expect for rupture to happen. There's going to be rupture. How many parents in the house can say yes, that is going to be rupture? All right. But number three is the most important. Okay. Because number two is going to happen because you're building on an imperfect foundation. Number three is repair. That is the most important. That is when you come back. That is when you reconnect. Maybe you're going to say sorry. Maybe you get out on the floor and play with the little kid. Maybe you soften how you're speaking and you're not so forceful. Your tone is important. You know, how you're talking to the child, how you are, especially when you are a boss dad, you're in charge of everything, or your boss mother, you're in charge of everything. Sometimes we tend to bring that into the house and start talking to your children as if they're your staff. Although you shouldn't talk to your staff like that, by the way, or you're talking to your children as if they are part of they're little people, you know. Um, so you have to watch it. You have to, so repair is something that you have to be intentional about. You have to um, understand that some parents never get to repair, and then the fracture stays there. The child who experiences rupture without repair over and over will be emotionally and psychologically impacted. And unfortunately, they would also become parents who cannot repair unless they process that. Okay, so the repair isn't extra credit. The repair is the actual mechanism, is the actual work that you need to do. Okay, the repair itself is not you yelling. It's not, it's not that you yelled. It's not that you missed the moment. It's not that you didn't do this. The repair itself is, how do I fix the disconnection between my child and I, between my children and I? That is the repair. I cannot go back and do for me. I cannot go back and redo, not letting them go on sleepovers, or not letting them do this, or not do that. I can't go back and repair that. What I can repair is I can repair us. Okay. The dissonance, I can repair that. I can repair the disconnection. I can repair that. Does that make sense? So think of one word, of one rupture that you had with your child. Could be big, it could be small. We don't want you to share the details. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But think of one rupture, okay, in your mind. Actually, I'm not even going to have you write this. And don't just think of the rupture. And I want you then to think of, what can you do to repair that? What can you do to repair it? What can you do to repair it? One word. One word. What can you do to repair? One word. One word. Okay? One word. What can you do to repair? So remember, you are you're repairing it, is not fixing it. So what is the one word you can do to repair? It could be a hug. So I'm not, it could be a hug. It could be a phone call. It could be this. What can you do to repair? Okay. What can you do? Esther was supposed to be helping me with this PowerPoint. Okay. So here is the three. Is the attunement. That's, are we in sync?
What do you
And
need me to do?
yes, Esther, you're supposed to be helping me with the PowerPoint. I said if you can change it for me, so I keep forgetting to change it. So there's rupture and there's repair. All right. So in this repair, I want you to put it in the chat. What is the one thing that you can do to repair? So think of a rupture and think of one thing you can do to repair. Is it a hug? Is it an apology? Is it showing up? Whatever it is, put it in the chat. We don't need to know what the rupture is. All right. Um, and then I'm going to give you a practice exercise that you can do moving forward. Okay? This is for you. It's free. Um, don't relive the whole thing when you're thinking of this rupture thing. I don't want you to relive the whole thing, okay? I want you to just locate it. This happened. Okay, this happened. And I want you to say this to yourself. So I'll give you an example. You can say, I got frustrated back then. That wasn't about you. If you're talking to your child, that wasn't about you. Sometimes it might be you sitting back, you're just sitting next to them. There's no script you have to follow. The point is that you're noticing that I'm repairing this. I'm available to you. It was like Maya Angelou who just had to change a facial what is it? How she presented a facial presentation to her daughter. Not scowling all the time. We're not critical face. We don't want to have the critical face or the critical eye to our children. We want to have the welcoming eye. Some of you could be your tone, that you just the tone, the way you talk, the way you talk. They're not just they're also human beings. So the way you're talking to them is important. So especially this generation, this different. This is a whole ball game. Um, this is important that we begin to repair things with our children. I hope this is helping some of you. And I love that we have people in leadership here too, because then I'm hoping you can also um, share this with your people. So, because what happens when you don't ease up? Okay? What happens when you don't ease up? And I know we only have a few. We yeah. We what happens when you don't ease up? What happens? Somebody put in the chat. What happens when you don't ease up? When you don't, if you, and I'm not talking about what I'm not just talking about the repair and the rupture now. Talking about if you don't ease up on your own expectations, on being this intense, on this whole idea of intense parenting, intense fathering, intense mothering. If you do not ease up on that, okay, what happens? Burnout, right? What happens? Yes, you tighten up. Absolutely. You know, absolutely. It's the same thing that happens at a workplace. It's called burnout. It is not a character flaw. It is it is not something that is new. It's literally a math problem. If the risk factors are this much, okay, and the protective factors are this little, what's going to happen? You're going to burn out. You're going to burn out. There are parents who are burnt out. There are parents who have compassion fatigue, okay? So when the scale is not balanced, when the scale is tipped towards hardship, towards risk, yeah, you stay burnt out. When you read this data, this actually surprised me myself, and I wrote it here. In one study of over 1,500 parents, they found that parental burnt out was linked to some serious stuff. Okay, parents wanting to escape the whole thing entirely. They wanted to escape. Parents using alcohol, parents who just leave. They start working 80 hours a week. parents or they start, if they're in religious circles, they start staying in, they're part of the prayer meeting, they're part of this, they're part of this, they're part of that, or in their organizations, they start being so effective outside that they're no longer any use in parenting because they're not there to see. All right. Some parents completely abandon and just outsource it to other people, right? Because they are just burnt out. They start having mental health issues. Start having sleep problems. They start having conflict with their spouse or with their partner. It was pretty interesting study. And here's the part I really want you to hear, because I think it's the part that turns this from being an abstract into something that we need to really grasp, right? When they compared parental potential burnout to job burnout in the same statistical model, parental burnout explained 31% of the variation in neglectful and harsh behavior towards their kids. What this means, what this translates is that job burnout in the same model explained less than 1%. What that means is those who were burnt out as parents actually became more neglectful or more harsh behavior towards their kids. People who were burnt out at work were only 1%, harsher or neglectful. But when parents are completely exhausted, completely burnt out, it translates into you outsourcing, being neglectful, and that's an adverse childhood experience, by the way. Neglect is a traumatic experience, or being very harsh to your child. Yeah. So being burned out at work might make you grumpier. It might make you grumpier to your employees. It might make you not too nice. But being burnt out as a parent has a measurable, documented connection that you actually begin to mistreat the child. So we're not saying this so you can get scared. We're not saying this so that you can start feeling bad about yourself. We're saying this so that you can think of parental exhaustion as a threat to parenting. Okay? It becomes a threat to parenting. And so, and a lot of the time that we're exhausted is because we're thinking of this perfect parenting, this intense parenting. You don't have money, but you have to do everything you can to get the money so your child can go to the best school. You have to go and borrow this, all of these things you're thinking as if your child will not amount to something if they go to the school that you can afford. Think about it. Don't kill yourself because your exhaustion is not helping your parenting. And in our culture, we have measures. Is the child getting an A? Is the child getting a first class? Is the child being a this? Once you check those, then you think you're okay, and the child might be completely devastated emotionally and psychologically. So this is a time where I am saying, can we leave that intense parenting alone and begin to look at the good enough parenting? The good enough parenting means I will do the best I can with what I have. And that is enough. The child will be enough. The child will get to live the life that they want to live. The child will be able to prosper in the place that they want to prosper, because this is good enough. You can do this. You can begin to change your mind. You can begin to change it. I'm going to leave you with a tool. Let me see if I have oh, see, Esther, you're not helping me with these things, man.
Well, I can't do it from my end, actually. I don't
Oh,
have
I
this.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
let's look at a tool that you can actually use. Okay. Uh, there is a Kristen Nerf, all right. She spent her career studying self-compassion. Okay. Some of you, if you haven't listened to my YouTube on self-compassion, go and find it there on Akin Marino. I think it's Professor Akin Marino on YouTube. I have a whole series on self-compassion. Now, she did a whole thing on self-compassion. A lot of us have that, just because we're human beings, we have that. And we have the instinct to be compassionate to everybody. We mess up with our kids, we snap, we miss something, and the very next thing you do is you turn on yourself. All right, you turn on yourself. You beat yourself up. You run the tape over and over and over and over and over, and you're like, and you hear something like this, and I'm hoping this is not what you hear from this particular series. You start thinking, oh my gosh, you criticizing those things that you've done. Well, nurse research says something a little bit different. Says that harsh self-criticism after a parenting mistake does not make you a better parent the next time. Just because you criticize yourself about something doesn't make you a better parent, in the next time. Doesn't improve your behavior. What actually helps you respond better is self-compassion. Because what self-criticism does, it turns inward. It makes you second guess yourself constantly. It makes you not trust yourself as much. So self-compassion is what actually changes things. And she broke this down into three simple pieces. The first is self-kindness. 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 How can I be kind to myself? Just talking to yourself the way you would talk to a friend who told you that they were having a rough time. That's self-kindness. You're not going to tell your friend that, oh, you're such a terrible parent because you yelled. That's not what you're going to say to your friend. You say, oh, that sounds like a hard day. Everybody loses sometimes. It's going to be okay. Self-kindness means you offer that to yourself. Offer that to yourself too. Offer that to yourself. Look at the kind of parenting you got. Look at the kind of parenting that you had to learn from. So you did the best, or you're doing the best that you can at that moment. So self-kindness is talking to yourself like you would talk to a good friend. All right. The second is just our common humanity. Our common humanity. There's a model called acceptance and commitment therapy. And part of the philosophy of that model is that the most common thing in the world is suffering. It's called adverse normality. The most common thing is suffering. So as the second thing she talked about is our common humanity. Is the reminder that struggling isn't a sign that something is wrong with you specifically. Like, it's not that you specifically something is wrong, but that when you are a parent, it is a sign that parenting is difficult for everyone. It's always been that. It's imperfect. You're not the only person in this room that has yelled this week. You're not the only person that got angry this week. You're not the only person. It is a common thing in parenting. Okay. And what that does for us is, if we know that this is common, we don't get too hard on ourselves. We forgive ourselves and we move on. The last thing is mindfulness. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is the simplest sense. Mindfulness means that I am noticing the hard moments. I'm going to name it. This is happening right now, but I'm not going to drown in it. And I'm not going to pretend that it didn't happen. some of you parents, you're going through so much, but you've not even shared anything with your kids because you think they're too young to understand. That's not true. What research has shown us and what experience has taught me is that the more you share with the kid, the more information they have, the better judgments they can make, the more compassionate they can be. You know, we're in this together. You might not be able to share every single detail, but give them enough. Give them enough. Um, um, Many of you know that I was divorced when I was 30. Well, we might not know the time, but I got married at 21. By 30, I was divorced. This current marriage is my remarriage, and it's been 26, 27 years. But that first marriage had two children. All right. We have two children from that first marriage. And I remember I was only like 20, well, I was 29, I think, when that divorce was happening. Right. And one of the things that I did for these kids is just sitting them down and asking questions. And they were asking questions. We talked about it. What happened? Am I losing my dad? Is this, da, 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 da. All of these things because they were pretty young. They were pretty young. I think it was three, and I can't remember the age. I think uh, very young kids, but having those conversations over and over. We also went to therapy. They did play therapy. They did this, having those kind of, then bring their dad into it with them. Okay, let's talk. Even though we're divorced, doesn't mean we're divorced from the kids. So we talk and we did and we did. And my daughter said something the other day. She's now 30s. Well, she's in her 30s. No, she said something the other day we were talking, and she said, somebody was saying something about her dad or something, and she said, I have never heard my mother say any bad thing about my father. In fact, I think I'm so lucky because they get along pretty well. We do everything together. We celebrate things together. We do birthdays together. We do all of this. My ex-husband was in my house yesterday to come and greet my dad because my dad is here. That's the relationship, right? His wife, all of that. But it started with conversations, conversations. You have to let people, these kids know what's happening, what's going on, because you not saying anything will allow the child to have all kinds of stuff in their head. You understand? The child will now think, oh, they've done this, they don't. No. If you're going through tough times, talk to them. Let them know. Mindfulness is attending to what is happening in front of you. Okay, what is happening right now? What is happening right now? Not pretending that things are not happening, not allowing the child to go through life as if you are the answer to everything. Let's not do that. And stop playing, we don't play God either. We don't play God. I share all these stories with you just for you to understand. We don't play God. I remember one of my girls one time wanted to go to she played softball. She played softball and she was very good. She still plays. She was very good. So she was so confident that she was going to be selected into I think they call level one schools for softball. So she applied. I remember her applying to university. And I remember sitting there and saying, why don't you apply to the UC schools too? Apply to this. She was like, oh no, mom, I want to do it. But I actually begged her to apply. I said, okay, apply to the school that your brother went to. Just apply to that one. So she applied. And we're Christians, she prayed about it, all of that. And when acceptance letters came, she did not get accepted into any of the softball schools. Not one. So I went into her room and she's crying. And she said, Mom, but I prayed. Mom, but I prayed. I even myself, I was thinking she was going to be accepted because she was top. So I didn't make excuses for God. I didn't say, you know what I said? I said, I don't know. Because I didn't know. I didn't know. I don't know. But let's deal with the schools that accepted you. Let's look at the schools that accepted you. She ended up going to one of the best schools. She's where she found her major. And then the school that she ended up going to, she also ended up playing softball at the school. You understand? All of these things, I'm just saying that things have a way of falling into place without you trying to make everything perfect for them. You don't know. You don't know. Let them know that you're not fallible, you're not infallible. Let them know that you're human. Let them know that you're also winging this thing sometimes. You need to let them know that. And this is how we begin to create healthy systems that can withstand generations, that will not have all of this um, traumas infused in them, because we are transparent, because we are good enough. We are good enough. We are good enough. Good enough means that you're putting all your things in there, but you're also allowing that child to be their own person. Is it? And I'm not going to go any further because I'm looking at the time. I want to have, if there are any questions. Esther, are there any questions that I need to look at?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you responded to this,
Okay.
but someone's asked for the name of maybe in the movie you mentioned.
Ooh, which movie was that now? What did I say about this movie?
Um, Pastor
Who asked
Steve is
that
the one with the
question?
question. Pastor Steve.
Pastor Steve, what is the movie?
I think I don't remember, but I think it's when you are explaining about I think a parent who was I think advised to
Still
about
it's not a
having.
movie. It's an experiment. It's called the still face experiment. The still face experiment. Yeah. So that's that. Anything else? Anybody has any questions, any
Yeah.
comments?
Someone said, at what time of age is it irreparable? I think. Hmm.
There is nothing irreparable. That is the work of relationships. There's nothing irreparable. There is the repair can damage, the rupture can damage if you let it sit for a long time. It would damage the system. However, no matter the damage, you can still repair. You can still repair. You can still take the next best step. Does that make sense? It might mean that that child has to do some more work. Okay. That child might have to need do some more work because they've been damaged. All right. So invest in their therapy, invest in healthy systems from them. It's not just therapy, it's also investing in healthy systems, healthy spaces where they can thrive. And stop thinking that you are the only one that can mediate or fix something. Some parents will put everything into the parenting of adult children when they should be outsourcing this, because there comes a point where they need to hear it from somebody else. They need to see it from another perspective. Does that make sense? So endeavor to forgive yourself, endeavor to just let go. It's okay. Honestly, it's okay. um it's okay. Anything else?
No, ma'am. That's all.
All right. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Any comments or thing before we leave? Are we good? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Oh, there's anything? Oh, wait. Let
Thank
me
you.
remove this.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great as usual. Bye.
Bye, bye. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Very
Oh, I didn't.
much.
Let me remove the
Very,
spotlight. I didn't see all of you. Hello,
very
everyone who
much.
joined. All right, all right, all right.
Thank you. Thank
Excellent,
you. Very insightful.
excellent, excellent. We'll talk
Thank
later.
you.